Lily or Ellie, could you give me screen sharing permission?
You should be good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay, welcome everybody. So, at 7:04, I will now call this meeting to order. To start, do we have any proxies today?
Yeah, my name's Adam and I'm proxying for Andrew Skunis, Granite School of Management.
Perfect, thank you. Hearing no more proxies, or do we have any more?
Hi, I'm Niall. I'm proxying for Michael Brown for the School of Engineering.
Perfect, thank you. Any more? Okay, hearing no more proxies, we will move into roll call by President Jensen.
Senator Ferguson.
Here.
Senator Mariani.
Here.
Senator Hampton. Senator Terrell.
Here.
Senator Scudder.
Here.
And if I pronounce that wrong, please let me know. Senator Dodona.
Here.
Senator Amos.
Here.
Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Senator Bettini. If I got that one wrong, I always say it wrong. I apologize. Can you say it again for me?
Botini.
Botini, got you.
Thank you.
Yep. Senator Ackerman.
Here.
Senator Robinson.
Here.
Senator Diaz.
Here.
Senator De Silva.
Here.
Senator Reynolds.
Here.
Senator Johnson.
Here.
Senator Bowman.
Here.
And Senator de Guzman.
Here.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm just pretty sick.
Very good. Hope you feel better.
Perfect. Okay. So you guys don't have to rise, but I'm just gonna quickly read the Pledge of Purpose, and so just take it all to heart. Okay, so our purpose is to be the voice of the Purdue student body, serve the needs of the students in all university matters, and provide leadership that stimulates innovation or innovative, inspires excellence. Initiative, so sorry, inspires excellence and exemplifies professionalism, and above all, hail Purdue. Okay, before we continue, I'm going to quickly do our land acknowledgement. So Purdue student government acknowledges the traditional homelands of the indigenous people, which Purdue University is built upon. We honor and appreciate the Potawatomi, Delaware, Miami, and Shawnee people who are the original indigenous caretakers. And before we get started, I know that there are a couple of senators who need to be inaugurated. So we'll have that led by President Jensen.
Yeah, so if you guys are a new senator, first, welcome. We're excited to have you guys. If you guys are not a new senator, of course, you know, we always love you guys as well. So you don't have to unmute yourself for this, so you don't have to overhear each other talking, but just, I'm gonna read partial of it, and then you'll just repeat after me.
One point of order, just to make sure, I'm so sorry, just to make sure that the people know who they are, who need to participate in this. Isabel Diaz, Shai, and as well as Irene all have to participate in this.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ellie. If you three could repeat after me, I then state your name. On this 29th day of June 2022, swear to abide by and uphold the Constitution and the bylaws of the Purdue student government. I swear to conduct all legislative business with the utmost integrity and with the best interest of Purdue University and its student body as my main objectives. Congratulations.
Perfect. Congratulations to our new senators. So now we'll move into executive reports. President Jensen, do you have any at this time?
Yes, I do. So some of the senators reached out, as well as other people in the org, to see if we are putting out a statement about the Roe v. Wade or Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization case. And we are, and that will be coming after this Senate session.
Perfect. So as far as my executive reports go, the only thing I have on the docket is, since I'm scheduling special programming for this upcoming semester and next, if you guys could fill out that Google survey that I had sent out a couple of weeks ago, I believe, but that's just to get like a good gauge on who people want to see. If you guys have any suggestions, I have a couple of fun ideas, I think, but it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what you guys want to see. So please fill that out. Thank you. Do I hear any other executive reports at this time?
Yeah, I just have one quick one, which would be, please, 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 I know we talked about it in caucus, keep checking your Slack once every few days if you guys can, just to make sure you're keeping up with your committees, to make so that if any legislation comes through in the next few weeks that we're catching all of that. And then to keep an eye out on your emails for scheduling with Ellie and I for the beginning of the year. Thank you guys.
Perfect. Okay. So I know we have recently gotten a couple of committees. Do any of the committees have executive reports yet? If not, that's totally okay. Yeah, Senator Dodona.
Yeah, so the chair of financial affairs was not able to be here today, but he has a proxy, but he asked me to share a couple of things on behalf of financial affairs. So financial affairs has been working with Sean and organizing the budget talks, so that will be what they will be working on over the next couple of weeks, as well as financial affairs will also be creating the small grant guidelines to be updated, which will be presented at the next session. So that gives a little overview of what financial affairs is working on.
Perfect. Senator Terrell.
Hi everyone. So as the new chair of CSRA, super exciting, have some jazz hands, really pumped about that. Literally have no update, just wanted to announce that because I'm excited. And we're gonna do a lot of things this term, so really excited.
Congratulations. Senator Mariani.
Mostly same as Sydney. No updates from IA. We had our first meeting recently as a committee, which was fun. Got to get some practice in talking about legislation. But other than that, no updates at this time.
Perfect. Senator Ferguson.
Yeah, and speaking on behalf of UAA really quick, because I don't think any of you have any updates, but please, 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 if you can, come to your committee meeting tomorrow morning so that we can elect a chair. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. At this time, I will move into informal discussion. Nope, we just did that. Informal discussion. Do I hear any informal discussion? Yes, Senator Terrell.
I guess it's more of a question for you and President Jensen, or I guess, I don't know, you'll hear me out. So I work in like HR for dining and culinary, and a lot of people know that I'm in PSG because I literally talk about it all the time because I have no other hobbies. And I've been receiving a lot of questions and emails regarding the welcoming letter that you guys sent out, because you mentioned your goals for the term, and unfortunately a raise for student workers wasn't listed on that, even though you guys talked about it a lot. So I was just wondering if you could kind of give an update on what the ideas about that are, so I have some kind of answer to give them, because unfortunately I'm like super involved in both PSG and in dining, so I get a lot of feedback, from both sides. So lots of questions, but I figured I'd just ask you here instead of emailing you guys about it, because I got a lot of them yesterday. So thank you.
Yep, President Jensen.
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. So in the welcome letter, like you said, it did say that we are focusing on 2 initiatives, but that did not mean that we are not focusing on other initiatives. So like I said in the welcome letter, our 2 main initiatives that we are focusing on is the Uber and Lyft program, as well as the aiding of the development of an app as a one-stop shop. But that does not mean that we are not trying to do the other things that we also said in the campaign as well. As more and things that come along the way. Does that answer your question, Sydney?
Yeah, I can just tell them now that I kind of have like an idea of like what the direction will be. I'll just tell them it's still a focus. It's just not like one of like the big shabooms, So that's why it wasn't as emphasized in the welcome letter. So thank you.
Senator Ackerman.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. You guys said we're going to release a statement about Roe v. Wade. What are you guys wanting to cover, and what is the goal behind addressing this?
President Jensen.
Yeah, so the goal of ours is to give resources to all students. I get here. Give me a second, and I'll look at the synopsis of our statement, so I can kind of give you a better answer. Okay, so pretty much we are giving our understanding and sympathies for those who are affected, as well as giving resources. And then we are also promising over the next year and semester to create a space and a form of discussion so we can discuss the uncomfortable conversations that should be had and need to be had. So we're just opening kind of promising and opening a space for discussion for the year.
Awesome, thank you.
Perfect. Any more informal discussion? Yes, Senator Ferguson.
Yeah, again, directing us back to President Jensen, was hoping you could go over some of the legislation that we discussed at ABTS last weekend, or if we could give senators a little bit of an idea on that.
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick too.
In the meantime, Senator Dodonna, do you have a question?
Yeah. Just a note, for those of you who do not know what ABTS is, it stands for the Association of Big Ten Schools. Basically, Purdue and all the Big Ten schools go to a little meeting and discuss legislation that they want to pass broadly, as well as discuss their structure, how we can learn from different schools in this conference setting. There's normally a couple throughout the year. Anybody can write legislation, and that goes there, and they vote on that within the ABTS. It's a cool experience, and I think it's an awesome way to learn about legislation.
Okay, and I'm gonna pass it over to Abidemi. I've been talking a little much. I know you guys don't always like to hear my voice the whole time, so Abidemi will go over the ABTS and kind of explain where we were at this weekend and what we did.
Sweet, thank you, President Jensen. Yeah, I just got tired of hearing him talk, so I wanted to talk a little bit too. So we basically went over 4 different pieces of legislation. The first one was talking about kind of the push that we've seen towards optional ACT and SAT scores, and kind of calling for investigating whether or not that is really positive or negative for the schools, and not necessarily saying that we should all go towards this, but it's really just calling for all the schools to look into it a little bit more and to see whether or not that really is boosting what we want to see at these universities. In terms of like the minorities that we're letting in and all that fun stuff. So basically just kind of calling for more investigation into whether or not optional ACT and SAT scores are really having the effects that we want them to have. And then the next one was a resolution in support of creating a system of accountability. So essentially what this was talking about, it really centered around microaggressions and creating a space for people to submit, basically saying this was a microaggression that happened and this is how it was resolved. And we can kind of review and analyze whether or not we think that that's an effective way that this microaggression was addressed on campus. And it's just calling for all the Big Ten schools to more or less do that internal review and to create those systems. That way people can speak up without necessarily feeling targeted. And it's one other thing I forgot to mention, it's an anonymous suggestion. So you don't have to, fear that you're going to have any kind of retaliation because you have that voice to, just say that this happened and this is how it was resolved. And then the schools will be able to analyze whether or not that was an effective response or not. And then the next one was a resolution talking about or in support of access to menstrual hygiene products across campus in all bathrooms. So Purdue has quite a few different their little dispensers in the bathrooms, but this resolution is really just pushing to have them in all bathrooms because I know that that's not a thing that we have here at Purdue. We do have them in some of the women's bathrooms as well as some of the unisex bathrooms, but I think pushing towards having them in all the bathrooms is something that this bill was supporting and something that a lot of the people at ABTS were supporting as well. And then the last bill was a resolution that was advocating for the passage of the Crown Act. If you don't know what the Crown Act is, essentially it's a piece of legislation that's kind of been nationally heard around the nation, but it's basically supporting, or I guess just it's condemning the discrimination of specific hairstyles. So for a lot of Black women, certain hairstyles are seen to have a higher rate of discrimination and they'll kind of be asked to leave work because of certain hairstyles. And it's really just condemning that because, that's not something that should happen. And then that was really just us passing our support of the Crown Act and just showing that as a Big Ten association, we support this passage of the Crown Act, and hopefully more people will support it as well. If you have any questions about any of those, feel free to maybe shoot me a text or ask me them later. I'd be more than happy to go in depth and tell you more about the bills.
Yes, Senator Ferguson.
Yeah, and just another comment on those. It is really interesting to see that a lot of these pieces of legislation were also very much mirrored legislation that's been passed at Purdue and has mirrored for the past 2 years. And so being able to see that progression is very interesting. And so just any ideas that you guys have that you think could potentially go to one of these conferences as legislation, or if you feel as though your legislation could apply to other Big Ten schools, it's just something to note and something that I guess before going to the conference, I hadn't really thought of. So I wanted to kind of bring it to your guys' attention and make sure that we're always having that thought of like, could this not just apply at Purdue, but apply broadly?
Yeah, that's a very good thought. Do we have any more informal discussions? Okay, seeing none, we will move into old business. Do I hear any old business? Okay, seeing none, we will move into new business. Do I hear any new business? Yes, Senator de Guzman.
Yeah, motion to bring up Bill 2204.
Perfect.
Second.
Perfect. It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2204, the cabinet appointment of Press Secretary Evan Chrissy. My bad. This bill is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. So President Jensen, do you have anything to say at this time?
I would love to say something at this time. So pretty much the press secretary role in student government over the past few years has been to take the ideas that the president and vice president have put them into words that the public can understand, and then send them out using Delivera. Evan has already worked with Delivera in the past and has already been a huge help to PSG in the last week, as he helped guide me on how to send out the campus-wide that we sent out last week that we talked about a little bit ago with the about Izzy and I, as well as our focuses. And he didn't only help me send it out, but he also wrote it himself. Evan also wrote our statement that's coming out tonight concerning the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, with alongside the guidance of Izzy and myself. When those were sent out, or I guess when the one last week was sent out, I received countless text messages, emails, and comments about how well it was written, how friendly it was, and how personal it all sounded. That's definitely not because of me, and that was all because of Evan. It is the president's job to appoint people who they work well with, who will be the best fit for that position. And honestly, it would be an understatement to say that Evan, along with Izzy and I, work well together and that he is the best fit for this position. We have already seen over the past week how cohesive our collaboration has been, and also how well written his deliverables have been as well. I know Evan is the best fit for our cabinet and for this position. I guess I'll ask Evan a couple questions as well. Evan, could you tell us, I guess, a little bit about why you applied to this role, a little bit about yourself, and then any past or current experiences that will help you succeed in this role?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I'll just say thank you, Andrew, for those kind words. I really appreciate all of that. But also, so just a little bit about me. Last year, I resigned my Senate seat and attempted to join the Student Supreme Court, as I was hoping to remain involved with PSG outside the legislative branch that I had been in for the previous 3 years. I then reached out to Andrew about this to see where I could possibly wind up, and he told me to apply and maybe something would just kind of work its way through. And that's when I was filling out the application, that's when I noticed the press secretary role and was intrigued because I already have experience with that as the communications director of the Honors College Racing Crew. About a week or so later, Andrew called me and asked, just kind of talked about the position, about my roles, kind of this sort of a environment to see if I would be a good fit. And I once again expressed my interest to the position, and he said that that works and that he would put my appointment through. And then he wanted to see if I could start as soon as possible and asked if I could write the about us that was from Izzy and him. And that was out, like you said, about last week. And also, of course, if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, is there any other discussion at this time? Senator Mariani.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So a part of the role of press secretary, or one of the main parts, in fact, is to be the primary representative of PSG to like all external press affiliates and organizations. So if you, what would you do? My question is, what would you do if you were asked to write about something or otherwise represent PSG in a stance or an action taken by PSG that you personally did not agree with, and how would you handle that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's kind of the big conundrum of being a press secretary, is how can you defend a position that may not be yours? Pretty simply, just kind of swallow my morals, swallow my beliefs, and just kind of go through with whatever the administration tells me to do. At the end of the day, I'm not my own voice. If I am in this position, I'm the voice of PSG and the administration more specifically. So I have to take that into account and remember that when I'm talking to the press, writing something. Just because I may not agree with it per se, doesn't mean that it's not the best for the student body. And so yeah, so just kind of swallow the beliefs and move on and write what I have to write to get the job done.
Awesome, thank you.
Senator Dodonna.
Yeah, so how do you plan to best ensure you represent PSG to press affiliates and organizations, the central job of the press secretary?
It's another great question. Just remain respectful. When someone asks you a question, you may not like the feeling or the kind of the vibe behind the question, but it's important to take it seriously, respond to it respectfully, and not dismiss any questions, because any question is a good question. And yeah, just remain respectful and professional in all assets of the job.
Senator Reynolds.
I was just going to ask, what are your own personal goals for the role and anything that you wish to accomplish that's different than, that's like it's a step above what's written down in the governing documents?
So one of my big goals this year is to kind of strengthen the relationship with the exponent, because I feel like there's not always been the greatest relationship for whatever reason between PSG and the exponent. And they are the main, if not the only news source on Purdue's campus about things, other than social media and all the craziness that comes with that. So I think being able to with a good relationship with them and be able to talk about things and kind of get our message out there a little bit easier would be very beneficial for all parties involved.
Senator Ferguson.
Sorry. So a little bit more of a pointed question, but in my 2 years of working with you as a senator, I've had some issues with your work ethic as well as some follow through. As you move into this role, what are you going to do differently than you did as a senator, as well as what type of time commitment are you planning on putting towards this role?
That's a great question. I plan on putting all my available time to this role. This is my most important thing. This means if I do get appointed here tonight, I would be greatly honored. And I can't wait to work with each and every one of you this year. But to the first part of your question of what I would change, I would spend more time preparing weeks in advance and not let things pile up like I used to do. I kind of fell into a hole of that last year and the years prior of waiting until the last minute to get projects, whether it be schoolwork or PSG work done. And that really that made the quality of my work suffer. This year already, I know that's not going to be the case. I've already seen that in my internship and my other part-time job that I have over the summer here. And with the About Us that I wrote for Andrew and Izzy, Andrew gave me a week to write it. I had it done that night. This is my thing. I'm ready for it, and I'm ready to give it my all.
Senator Terrell.
Are you optimistic that maybe you could help the student body think less negatively of PSG this year? I don't know why. They're like sus about it, but everyone just be hating on us for no reason.
I am cautiously optimistic. I know that is a very large hurdle to climb, and that won't be easy and it won't be done overnight, but I am ready to take on that challenge, and I hopefully that can be achieved. It's going to take us all, though. Obviously, not just one person can do it. It's going to take each and every one of us to make sure that our message is getting out in the right way.
Senator Bowman.
Yeah, so my question is, I know that especially probably throughout the course of doing this role, there's going to be a lot of just different events or things that happen that you are going to be required to kind of report on to the student body. And these events are going to come with all different kinds of tones, levels of seriousness and impactfulness on the student body, some of which may be very controversial, some of which may be kind of funny, and obviously having to switch between kind of writing all in these different tones and trying to be cognizant of the student body's emotions toward that is a difficult task. So how do you kind of plan to check yourself kind of on that topic, to kind of, I guess, integrate yourself into kind of how the student body is feeling with emotion wise, and just to make sure that, the, I guess, press releases are released in the most appropriate tone possible. And, you know, I guess kind of a follow up to that, like, would you have kind of someone edit your work, or would you have someone, you know, check over it, or just kind of what is, you know, your plan for, you know, potentially incurring that kind of situation?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's a great question. I plan on using a part of the Constitution that hasn't been really utilized, at least not to my knowledge, the last few years, which is a staff writer position. I haven't quite decided on who yet, but I will definitely use those people to help me get more opinions and ask people the feel of the campus and the emotions of the campus when anything is supposed to go out. And then use the staff writers as kind of a help check on my grammar, you know, because we all make the little stupid mistakes that happen. And so using someone else and having someone else help me with that will make sure that things are going out in the right way, in the most appropriate way possible.
Senator Dodona.
One brief question before I ask my other ones. Are you still planning to graduate at the end of this semester?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. That's also part of the reason why I want to use a staff writer, is so that way we can appoint someone that can just step right into the role, that already has experience in the position. So there's no lull in January when we get back to school from someone who's never had any experience in this position and is ready to go.
Awesome. Then sort of a follow-up, let's sort of focus on that. I have a couple. So without the ability to have a learning curve stepping right into the role, how do you plan to mitigate that for yourself and sort of ensure it in the future? How has your writing improved over the last 3 years as a senator? As well as there's a lot of conversation about how you interact with both President Jensen and Vice President Weber, but the role of the press secretary is to advise all executive directors, everybody within Senate on within board of directors. How do you plan to ensure that you're fulfilling that role unilaterally through PSG?
My plan right now is to go to every Senate meeting and every BOD meeting. That's a lot, and it's not going to be a whole lot of fun, but I'm ready to do it to kind of make sure that I am getting everyone's input and advice and listening to everyone and putting out the right press releases. Also, to prepare myself, I have, like Andrew already said, I wrote that about, I've already said I wrote the about you that I think went very well. Really, the learning curve is really just kind of on the job training, and I'm ready for that. I have done it before. My writing has been exponentially better these last year over rather than what I wrote, like, say, my freshman year. And part of that being a communications minor has helped that a ton, that I've learned to write really well. And so I'm ready for it.
Senator Ferguson.
Okay, I have two questions. One, I'll ask first because it kind of bounces off one of Ellie's, which was, you talked about going to every Senate meeting and every BOD meeting and making sure that you're getting everyone's perspective. How are you going to balance those perspectives if they're opposing? So say BOD and Senate has an opposing viewpoint. We talked a little bit about how you plan on, like, just swallowing your own personal beliefs, but how are you planning on meshing together beliefs of different branches of our organization? And then second question has to do with your staff writer that you're planning on appointing. An issue that has been brought up with your leadership in the past has been over delegation. How are you planning on delegating fairly to the staff writer, especially because you're also wanting to prepare them to step into your role next year? And how is that delegation going to be decided?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the second part of that question? My mom walked into the office.
It has to do with the delegation to your staff writer. How are you going to ensure that is fair, as over delegation has been a concern with your leadership in the past?
Yeah, so right now I don't have a staff writer. I kind of been going at this myself. So my plan to use a staff writer is I write a majority of the things because I'm the press secretary or I would be the press secretary. That's my job. That's kind of my responsibilities. And this staff writer would have other responsibilities and other goals and what tasks and anything else that they would have to achieve. So I don't want to take away from that either. So I would use them mostly as a delegate if something comes up where I have an exam or some other meeting that I just can't make it to something and I need someone to sit in for me so that I can get the information I need, I would use them there. Or, if I can't write something right away, I would have them help me out there. Then also, like I said before, kind of use them to check my work, see how it's going, make sure I'm sounding good and making sense. Then your first part was about if BOD and Senate are opposed, correct?
Yes.
So that becomes a tricky situation where at the end of the day, it would come down to what the president and vice president say, because I am the voice of the administration and they are the administration. So although with that, I would also try to incorporate a lot of the points made by either side, but I also don't know that that's happened a ton in the past where there was a major issue that the BOD side believed one thing and Senate believed something else. So I don't expect that to happen again, but always expect the unexpected. So if that happens, that's what I'll do.
Senator Ferguson.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the candidate and Evan, you for answering questions today and giving us your perspective and your thoughts. And I just want to speak a little bit more on kind of where my head's at with all of this. And prefacing with, I have no issues with Evan personally, but as a senator, I would be remiss in my role if I didn't speak up when I have issues with a appointment or issues with any sort of bill, resolution, whatever it may be. I tried and I did come in today with an open mind, and I appreciate Evan for answering our questions. I just am not seeing as many tangible steps as I think I would need to lessen my reservations coming into this appointment. Coming into this, I have some reservations on negative experiences when it comes to overdelegation, follow through, work ethic. And I just want to make sure that I'm speaking those into, I guess, on the floor and making sure that other senators are hearing those. This isn't something that I came to overnight, and these aren't issues that have come overnight. These are issues that I expressed to President Jensen at the beginning of his term and before an appointment even came to my desk or to the floor. Considering this, I do want to make sure that every senator is listening to the candidates' answers and coming to this conclusion on their own behalf. I am not speaking for the Senate. I just want to speak on my own regard and just let you all know where my head is at, because I know a personal pet peeve of mine is if someone votes no on something and doesn't say why they voted no. And so I just want to make sure that I'm saying this not to try to sway any of your opinions, but just for my own peace of mind and so that this opinion is being expressed. But thank y'all.
Would anybody like to yield time to President Jensen?
I'll yield 3 minutes of my time to President Jensen.
Perfect. Thank you, Senator Mariani. President Jensen. Did he go away?
He's muted still.
Yeah, you're muted.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I guess first off, Senator Mariani, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Second, like I said earlier, the press secretary role is a delegatory role from the president and the vice president. I have seen no issues as far as I've known Evan, and in this past week of Evan's work ethic or the time that he has to put into it. Like he said, he is in an internship as well as a part-time job, and I know firsthand that that is not easy. And he's also found time to do this. So Evan definitely knows how to time manage and as well knows how to write and is very expressive in his writing, and also heavily listens to criticism from myself and from Izzy. And if we need anything done, he's always there to do it. So his work ethic is definitely not a problem with me.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Muted.
Muted again. Sorry. I just wanted to say my work ethic and my time management skills sophomore, last year, whatever, were not the greatest. I will be the first to admit that I struggled with both those aspects of my life for a couple years there, but I really towards the end of last semester when I was deputy elections director, it really kind of forced me to get in the headspace and really figure out my time management, because I spent probably 15 hours a day working on the election, and then also had classes to go to, homework to do, all this so everything just took up so much more time with PSG wise that I had to get back into the swing of things, kind of figure out what to do. And so that really forced me to be better with my time management. And that has been something that I haven't lost over the summer, like we all do sometimes, but I definitely feel like I'm ready for this.
Senator Mariani.
I've never had the opportunity to work with Evan personally. So I was hoping, could you explain or go more in depth about your experience as deputy elections director and what you kind of did to make sure that the elections process went more smoothly last year?
Yeah, absolutely. So Braden pretty much had me be his everything guy. Like if he needed something done that he couldn't do, it fell into my lap. That went from checking on tabling to make sure everything was okay. I know I saw a lot of you guys out there doing that. And then what else did I do? He had me go to Walmart and buy cookies for our table and run those tables. Like I just pretty much everything that Braden asked me to do, I was there and I was doing it. And yeah, that was a long couple weeks, and I'm sure a lot of you understand that feeling.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion at this time? Yeah, Senator DeDona.
I just had to reiterate one more thing that I sort of asked a question that I'd like to have spoken on now. Absolutely, the press secretary answers to both the president and the vice president, but within the job description is representing and communicating with all members of PSG, all members of cabinet, all executive directors. And so I was hoping you could touch a little bit about how you plan to ensure that those relationships and ensuring that you are taking into account all those perspectives that you're supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, planning on going to a lot of meetings, but also not just engaging. And I know Senate meetings are a little more formal, so can't really engage as much, but there is time before, after, whatever, to kind of ask opinions, ask what we think, and take a lot of notes about what the viewpoints on a lot of issues are. Then BOD, a little more informal, a little bit of a better place for me to just kind of meander and talk to everyone, kind of see what people are thinking, how people feel, kind of those viewpoints. And then also just reaching out to people if an issue arises and I know a certain person's more passionate about it than others, I reach out to them first, kind of see what they think, and then kind of go down the list from there.
Senator Robinson.
Hey, Evan. So I wanted, excuse me, to ask, I mean, coming from a student who hasn't been involved in PSG, it's hard to get students to read the newsletters. So is there any approach to your writing that you think is going to be, that's different, that'll be more like enticing or intriguing to people to get them to read? Are there any other plans that you have that might like spice up the newsletters so that they're more interesting to read or anything like that? Thank you.
One idea that I've had that I haven't really vocalized to anyone yet, so I don't know how real it's going to be. I think putting videos in those messages will be a huge help and kind of give Izzy and Andrew a place to kind of talk about what they think and kind of use their own voice and their own words in those newsletters would be a huge help. And then also maybe cutting down on the amount of email, like the school-wide emails that we send out, because I think it's once a week now. Maybe drop that down to once every 2 weeks, kind of see how that goes and maybe bump it back up. I don't know. I haven't really thought too much into that exact idea. I think my writing is a little more intention grabbing by general. At least I like to think it is. I don't know how true that is. But I think that's something I definitely am planning on working on, definitely looking into and trying to figure out the best way of engaging more students.
Okay, point of order. President Jensen has just informed me that we have hit our 30-minute limit on discussion, and we can extend discussion on Evan's appointment with a 2/3 vote. Is that something that we are interested in? Okay, so seeing none, we will move to a vote on Bill 2204. I'm going to be sending the Google form in the chat now. Okay. Okay. With the vote of 8 to 7 to 3, the bill passes. So congratulations, Evan. Yay. Sorry, let me try to figure out how to get back to my slides. Okay. So, great. Do we have any other new business? Yeah, Senator Diggisman.
Motion to bring up Bill 2205.
Perfect.
Second.
Beautiful. Okay. It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2205, the Cabinet Appointment Secretary, Katie Friend. This bill is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. President Jensen, is there anything you'd like to say at this time?
I would love to speak at this time. So again, the secretary role in student government over the past few years has struggled. I think we can all see that. Just either not completing the duties to the standard, or frankly, they just haven't been done at all. And so seeing how this was not done in the past, we chose not to only have a qualified secretary, but to be quite blunt, have an overqualified secretary. So I know Katie will speak for herself in a couple of seconds about her roles and achievements, but I just wanted to highlight one of them because I know Katie's a little too humble to do so. While Katie not only served as the chapter president of AOPI during the 2021 year, she did so at the highest standard and was awarded the 2021 Jane Hamblin Outstanding Sorority Chapter President. I think this speaks for itself, as we can see that not only is she committed, diligent, resourceful, and can execute, but can and will do so at the highest standard. So Katie, can you also tell us a little bit about yourself and then any past or current achievements or roles that will help you succeed in this role?
Thank you for that introduction, Andrew. Like you said, and like I already said prior, that I've been very involved in my sorority, joining and then becoming the assistant new member educator right off the bat, which I mentioned was a brand new position that had never been used before. So I was able to kind of make more of a structured guidelines on the following new member educators to know what the position entails and kind of the expectations of them. Within about 15 months of being in the sorority, I was the president. So I kind of joined where we were actually just back on campus for the first time. So I spent most of my first time of the sorority sitting in this exact chair going to meetings. So I kind of took the position and didn't know fully what I was supposed to do, but I figured it out. And then I was awarded the Jane Hamblin Award, which kind of just was an award to show all the hard work I did. And one thing that I am very proud of during my term is AOPI was one of the safest campus houses to live on. We had the lowest rates of COVID. So I had to enact certain bills and stuff within our chapter to keep us safe, but they were obviously very good ones because they worked. Like I mentioned, I was also I'm an ambassador for the nursing school. I love the nursing school, so I like to talk so highly of it. So I'm just excited to potentially be the secretary, hype up PSG, because I know sometimes not everyone loves PSG, but just be here to be supportive to all of you and do whatever you need me to do.
Perfect. Do I hear any discussion at this time? Senator Bowman?
Hi, Katie. It's very nice to see you again. Obviously, I do know firsthand about your experience as president of AOPI. And I just kind of have a question, kind of following off of that. Obviously, like, secretary of PSG is very different than, chapter president, though they both require a lot of, time and attention. And how do you kind of plan on using your past experience to kind of facilitate your transition into this secretary role for PSG? And kind of a follow up to that, President Jensen touched on how the role of secretary was kind of defunct last year. And how do you intend on kind of meeting, the requirements of secretary, and then, what are your personal goals for going beyond those requirements?
First off, hello, Claire. It's nice to see you again. So my past experiences kind of coming in with maybe not the most amount of knowledge will definitely benefit me here. I think that not having really been on PSG before will not hurt me or be a detriment to me as the secretary. There'll definitely be a transition period, as there is with any new role. Even if you're coming back as a senator, there's going to be a transition period with the new administration. So I think having very open communication with everyone will be very beneficial to me and to them. Kind of setting expectations with Andrew and Izzy about what they expect from me, obviously looking at the Constitution and outlining what is expected of me. I plan to figure out like how I will achieve those goals. Your second question was, how do I plan to kind of like go above and beyond, is how I kind of interpreted that. I think that opening communication and having more communication will be very important. Making sure that the minutes are up to date, detailed, no discrepancies in them. Just making sure that I'm fulfilling my position to the fullest so that no one has to come to me and like question what I'm doing, because that will take extra time on everyone's end. And I don't want to be any more of a burden and add any more to all of your very busy plates.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie.
Senator Dona.
Yeah, I guess as someone who's experienced 3 different secretaries, I've really seen the burden of not having a secretary that comes to all meetings. So is your plan currently to come to all Senate, Board Director, and Cabinet meetings in order to effectively take those minutes that we all rely on so much?
I do. Having already served in my sorority and I've passed the torch down to the new executive board, I don't have any position in the House anymore. And we have this, you can go on special status, it's called, so you're not required to attend all meetings. So I will be able to give my full time to PSG. I do plan to attend all of those meetings. If I know I have a conflict that cannot be avoided and I have to go to the other thing than PSG, to be very open with Andrew and Izzy, like tell them so much in advance, figure out who will take the minutes at that meeting and make sure we're on the same page. I actually, while I was the president, our secretary was kind of going through some personal issues, and we went like months without minutes, and it took a really long time to figure out what was happening. So having that firsthand experience and not having the minutes and having people say like, oh, was this discussed, especially like advisors and people who needed to know this important stuff, I'll make sure that I can either fulfill it, and I don't plan to have a reason why I can't, or have the person stepping in for me fulfill it to the highest level so that there isn't any confusion with any of the documents and so forth.
Senator Ferguson.
Yeah, as someone who has also seen 2 different secretaries, one issue that we consistently have is amendments that are made on the floor not being recorded correctly, and then having to go back through the YouTube video and try to figure out what happened. Basically a very, very long, drawn out process. And I was wondering if you had any ideas or any thoughts on how we can streamline this process through minute taking or etc. for this year.
Thank you for that question. So I think I know in my sorority, we had a very structured minutes document that we followed. So I plan to follow one that's already created and potentially edit it if possible, and discuss with people the way that is most easily read, because I could imagine going back and having to go through, I've been to a couple Senate meetings, very long, having to go through and try and find like what the amendment was and where the error occurred. I know this doesn't directly correlate, but within nursing, there's a lot of processes and we find the errors and fix them. So in the event that I do not correctly report anything, I would love to have discussions with whoever that affects and figure out like where I went wrong and how I can make this process better for everyone, because a well-oiled machine is definitely needed in PSG when so many important amendments are being created and possibly passed.
Is there any more discussion at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will move to a vote on Bill 2205, and I'm going to be sending the Google form right now. Okay. Okay, perfect. With a vote of 19 to 0, Bill 2205 passes. Congratulations, Katie. Yay. Okay. Is there any other new business? Senator Terrell?
I motion to bring up Bill 2206.
Second. Second.
Perfect. Okay. It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2206, Executive Appointment Student Fee Advisory Board Chair. This bill is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move to discussion from the floor. So President Jensen, is there anything you'd like to say at this time?
I'm just going to pass this one off to Sean. He can speak on it a little bit more than I can.
Sorry, I lost my mouse there for a second. Thank you, President Jensen. Yeah, so as I mentioned in caucus, so again, SFAB are the student fee allocation boards that allocate the student fees that are collected. And that board has a chair. And as mentioned in the bill, it is recommended that the chair be treasurer of the Purdue student government. And then at the last meeting, I was confirmed as treasurer, but we felt it was not clear that was also the SFAB confirmation. So again, this is just that separate chair appointment. I'll touch briefly on my experience. I've been on the board since my freshman year, so I'm going into my senior year. I did 2 years as a board member, and then last year I served as PSG treasurer as well as chair of the board. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, is there any other discussion at this time? Yes, Senator Ferguson.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Sean, for coming and doing a second appointment. I know that this might seem a little bit pedantic, but governing documents. I just want to ask, what is something you think you did really well as chair last year and something you want to improve upon coming into as chair this year?
Yeah, so something that I think is probably like I think I did well, but was trying to connect with the board members. The board really only meets around 5 or 6 times a year, so it was really important for me for those meetings, which are long meetings, to be fun, to build those relationships, so that the board is comfortable sharing their opinions with the group, with me, as well as just being in that space. Improvement, as always, there's always room for improvement in our guidelines. We have all this money to give out, so we want to lower, make it as easy as possible for those groups to get money while still being consistent. A big part of the allocation is being viewpoint neutral, so we don't really care what the group is as long as they're fulfilling their purpose in serving students. So being able to continue that, to be able to open that is certainly one of my goals.
Senator Mariani.
Yes, Lily actually asked the exact question I was going to say, but I have a couple. So you've or at least I've heard from a lot of students and organizations on campus that they have had trouble with SOGA and S5 applications and like the process in the past, saying that it's like kind of strict and complicated. So my question is, do you think it would be beneficial to make the process more accessible to organizations, particularly smaller and newer organizations? And maybe if they make a mistake, be more lenient in that process? Or do you think that that strictness is necessary just with like the sheer number of applications the board receives?
Yeah, so for the first part of it about accessibility, certainly it is open to every organization and we don't want there to be that barrier. I think one thing that really was ramped up last year, and we actually saw an increase in applications, was Mike, who advises PSG, and the board put on workshops. I think they were like once a month in the evening. There were a lot of them. You know, it's hard to get people to come to workshops and presentations, but I think people did come to them because we did see kind of an uptick in applications. So getting the word out, we put it in the SAO bulletin to get it out there. I see it in other newsletters as well. and certainly making sure groups know that my email, as well as SAO and Mike's email, is available. We're happy to help with those questions because we do want, we have no other use for this money besides giving it out. Second question is kind of about the strictness of it. One of the things of viewpoint neutrality, and we can talk about it all day. So if you're really interested in it, feel free to talk to myself or Dr. King. But every time a group does get denied funding, we do have to provide reasoning. And almost 100% of the time, it is something pulled from the guidelines. And those guidelines are available when they submit the application. They say they read the guidelines. So it is there to kind of help eliminate bias and make sure the funds are going towards what they're intended. But we're happy to help groups interpret the guidelines or share how the board interprets it. But I think they are there for a reason.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Senator Bowman.
Yeah, hey, Sean. First of all, thanks for coming to yet another meeting. You've been doing a lot of PSG meetings as of late. But I guess my kind of question goes a little bit off of Senator Mariani's question. And that I know that there had been in the past kind of some, I guess, disconnect or breakdown between, SFAB and PSG, and then SFAB and, the student body. So I was just kind of wondering, this is not your first rodeo in this position. How do you kind of seek to, I guess, improve and like bolster those relations and kind of to improve communications between the two groups? Because I know that, obviously PSG, really FA and SFAB, and you guys kind of work in tandem sometimes. And then just kind of also, how do you intend to kind of bridge the gap between, the general student body who isn't as well versed in, all things financial, whatever, and obviously, yourself.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, caucus, what I don't want to happen is for March to come around and just this bill that's covering $1.4 million comes up and US senators don't know what it means. So certainly having the door open for questions. My past year, I tried to give updates on SOGA throughout the year. Hopefully it was picked up on in the Senate so they kind of know what's going on, as well as when Mike and I presented to the Senate, making sure you had the information to know it. And again, with the student body, I think it is getting the word out. The group, I think a lot of the groups that need that level of funding know about it, but that's not to say there isn't someone that doesn't. So being able to advertise, to put it out there, and to make it known that we're not big, scary, grumpy people holding on to our money, but we want to give it out and want to answer your questions so that you are successful in receiving a grant.
Would anybody like to yield time to our advisor?
That was why my hand was raised. I'll yield 4 minutes of my time to Advisor King.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I promise not to take 4 minutes. I do want to say a couple of things in note, because I'm sure Sean does not remember everything, but what he implemented last year for SOGA grants, particularly because students were getting denied for the most simple things, was to review them beforehand and give them an opportunity, deny and give them an opportunity to resubmit before the deadline. Unfortunately, we see a large percentage of groups submit in the last 5 minutes, and there's no way to review 20 applications, 30 applications that come in at 11:59. So those that come in early that he can catch in order to help give out more funds, he will give them an opportunity to reapply. In regards of SFAB, we have open office hours, including myself, Mike Mifflin, as well as Sean, months before. So just so timing, the SFAB application is also always due on February 1st. It opens November 1. There's lots of time for folks to fill out the application, and a mass email is sent out. I do want to make note, SFAB is not just for student organizations. It is for individual students as well that can apply. as long as they are connected with a department. And so we have, excuse me, typically encourage senators to go back into their college. And if there are ideas that someone in an administrator, professor in the college would support along with a student, then to apply for the grant. So it's a very different piece, but one that can help kind of not just target student organizations and elevate some of the connections and know-how of individual students and the grant. SFAB message is a large message that goes out campus-wide to all undergraduate students. They receive that information. So we can't send out many campus-wide emails, but that is one that goes out to administrators. So that is all I have to say, but thank you.
Is there any other discussion at this time? Okay, perfect. I'm going to send the Google form in the chat now. Okay, with a vote of 18 to 0 to 1, Bill 2206 passes. So congratulations to Sean again. Okay, we will now move into announcements. Do I hear any announcements at this time? Okay, we will now move into Senate snaps. For new senators, Senate snaps is a way to recognize the hard work of others within PSG. Does anyone have any Senate snaps? Senator Mariani?
Yeah, I have a Senate snap for Senator Robinson. Coming in here as a new senator, I know is daunting. And during caucus and on the floor, she was coming out here with great questions. I just think she did a great job. And when I was a new senator, it took me a couple meetings to feel comfortable enough to talk on the floor. And I just think that's really admirable. So I'd like to give her a snap.
Perfect. Senator Terrell?
Definitely giving a Senate snap to Irene. Welcome to the party, sis. You did the SAM program, but you made it senator status. We're gonna mess things up in the most legislation appropriate way possible. It'll be a lot of fun.
Senator Ferguson?
Senate snaps to President Jensen as well as Chief of Staff Oregby just for driving 8.5 hours out to Minnesota to go to ABTS last weekend. Not a drive I would ever want to make, but wouldn't want to make again. But for a conference, it was a lot of dedication from both of them. Also, Senate snaps to co-pro temp Dodona for picking up a lot of my emails and other Slack this week, or not just this week, but over the summer as I'm busy with my internship.
Senator Bowman?
Senate snaps to all of our new appointees and cabinet. Congratulations, you guys. And also Senate snaps to Senator Terrell for being the best exam proctor I could ever ask for. You did me a real solid there, so thank you.
Senator Ferguson, do you have another Senate snap to give?
Nope, my bad.
Okay. So right now we're just gonna hang out for just like 2 seconds. Yes. Sorry. Okay, perfect. So previously there was a bit of a mix up on the voting for Bill 2204. The new vote now is 9 to 7 to 3. So Bill 2204 still passes, and congratulations to Evan again. Okay. Yes, snaps again. Okay, so seeing no further announcements of snaps, the chair would recognize a motion to adjourn. Senator Terrell.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Perfect. It has been properly motioned and seconded to adjourn the meeting. It is not amendable, it is not debatable, and requires a 2/3 vote. All in favor, do whatever. Say aye.
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 Perfect. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.